Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is our fourth video for Sex It Happens, our Chapter 10 notes. And this is pretty much what it all has to do with. Let's see what happens. Well, I think you get the picture. Those spermies are on their way to continue that beautiful, magical fertilization of an egg, where two individuals share their genetic material, their alleles, and their chromosomes to form a new organism, their baby. Someday, when the time is right, you may find yourself in that same place. This video is fantastic, by the way. Ask me to play this in class, and I surely will. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of remarkable how challenging it is for a sperm to fertilize an egg. And this has great data and very specific statistics about just how amazing and brave that one sperm is that succeeds. Wins the race. All right, here we go. Let's click on out of here, and we'll head to slide 31, and it's a review of the problems we want to try to explore in this chapter. We have been, and I would say, successful in doing problems 1 and 2. We'll continue to explore that. It's never really over in this chapter, nor is it for the remaining chapters. We'll continually examine who we are and why. But we're getting closer to solving or understanding better problem number 3 and 4, which is really our project. And we're getting information, and the reason why we're going over these next, let's say, 7 to 10 slides is that we want to prepare ourselves for the project, which is having a patient and studying them and trying to solve and help them with a genetic disorder. So without further, let's proceed. So slide 32 is a review video of BBC, which is a British documentary series. It's educational, and it talks about chromosomes, DNA, and nucleotides. If you feel like you're struggling, come talk to me. I'll make sure I give you access on Google Classroom for this video, or I'll play it in class if you request it. All right, let's move on. This is slide 32. Slide 32 focuses on the purpose of what we now want to understand about meiosis, which is it doesn't always go the way you want. The meiosis can have problems, and when that does, you get a genetic disorder. It could be due to the allele version, the version of a gene on a chromosome, or it could be the fact that chromosomes didn't move around properly during meiosis, and so the sperm or egg that produced the offspring is to blame, and it caused the genetic disorder because that sperm or egg had some kind of damaged chromosome or allele. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the rest of these slides here and start learning the vocab we need. So learning some of those special important words so that we can better describe what causes chromosomal disease, and so that'll extra prepare us for our project. Question 1 on slide 33 asks, it says interpret images, which is to make sense of them. We have meiosis in males and then meiosis in females. It says interpret how it's produced. So how is the sperm or how is the egg in meiosis produced? Now some students, a lot of our examples are always just sperm. So a lot of students may falsely assume that meiosis only produces sperm, but they produce sperm and eggs. Meiosis just makes male and female gametes or sex cells. It says compare contrast cell division for sperm and egg. In males, you have a single cell result into 4 sperm, and in females, it leads to surprisingly 1 egg. So meiosis, although it does produce 4, these 3 are small and break down. They're not fully functional eggs. So in meiosis in females, the whole process actually just produces 1 fertile egg, or 1 egg that can produce an offspring. And then the other 3 are just tossed away and the body reabsorbs them. So when you're comparing and contrasting, that's the difference. In males, you get 4, and in females, you just get 1. Why is it physically harder to be a female? So think about this question. This is kind of an interesting social question as much as it is biology. Why is it harder to be a female? Sexual harassment, childbirth, body image issues, dating, sports. You decide. Why is it harder to be a female? All right, let's move on to slide 34. 34 is, for the first time, really just explaining what chromosomes are. And it says they are DNA strands that are compressed and condensed to save space in the cell. We've studied this before. I think we're probably at this point aware of what chromosomes are, but they're basically tightly squished DNA, and on the DNA and sections of the DNA contains alleles or versions of genes. And all of these chromosomes are duplicated when making gametes, and that's really one of the reasons why it leads to bad things. So if chromosomes are copied and duplicated for forming gametes, sex cells, what happens if the duplication goes wrong? What happens if the chromosome isn't copied properly, or the sperm or egg doesn't receive the proper number of chromosomes? That's when you have your big issue. Let's keep moving. Look at the question on slide 34. It says, why are DNA strands condensed into chromosomes? Well, why do you squish anything together? Why do we do that ever? Why is it good to take items, whether it's clothing or your luggage or these chromosomes? Why is it important to condense something or make it take up less space? Why is that valuable? So create your hypothesis. Hypothesis equals blank. Then it says, number 2, it says, think of 2 items to compress or tightly pack that you own. What are 2 things, if you could squish them down so they take up less space in your home or your room, what would it be? All right, moving on. Slide 35. Slide 35 is fantastic because it's our first chance to look at a good example, investigate a chromosome disease, or I should say chromosome disorder. Let me change that. Chromosome disorder, I believe, is the correct way to say it. All right. So chromosome disorder, it was part of a worksheet. We're just going to do one question as part of our notes, just so we can learn. And it'll save time. So we have a patient A that we need to learn about, and we want to learn a little bit about their history. So let's go to this website and figure out what is patient A's history. Let's learn a little bit about their history. And I'll tell you now, to do this, to practice this, is fantastic for preparing for our project, because you're going to be doing the same. You're going to be investigating a patient and understanding what's going on with them and their potential chromosome disorder. So let's have patient A. Their patient history is, we don't have a lot to go on. It says patient A is the nearly full-term fetus of a 40-year-old female. So patient A is the fetus or the offspring of a 40-year-old female. So she hasn't, the patient A hasn't been born yet. She's inside her mom, and her mom's rather old. She's 40 years old. And we got information on her chromosomes. So we got some tissue from her, then we can look at her chromosomes. And the activity has you pairing up. Remember, there's 2 of each chromosome. So in a normal human being, there's 2 of each. And you can proceed to try to figure out where each chromosome goes. In this example, you look at it and try to figure out which one of these would pair up well. And I'm looking at 5, 12, and 16. Well, this one looks like it would pair up really well with 16. So, and it says another correct match. So there's 2 of each chromosome, right? Well, if you keep going, you eventually get to the point where you find out exactly what chromosomes this this individual patient A has. And if you look, once you finish what's called a karyotype, which is a karyotype is just a complete set of an individual's chromosomes, they have 2 of each chromosome except for chromosome 21. There is 3 of chromosome 21. Now, that's the famous genetic disorder, the one we're all aware of. It's called trisomy 21, and that's known as Down syndrome. So Down syndrome, trisomy 21, you get an extra chromosome 21. So you're only supposed to have 2, and you got 3. So let's go back to the original questions and make sure we answer it in our notebook, now that we have a little bit of information on the patient, and we've already kind of discovered what was going on with their chromosomes. One, it says, what is patient A's history? So in your notebook, summarize. I would say that it's the fetus of a 40-year-old woman. It says the last set of chromosomes is the sex chromosomes. If you have two large chromosomes, your patient is XX. One large and one small indicates XY. What sex chromosome does our patient have? Well, let's look. Let's find out if this fetus is a boy or a girl. Two big ones, so it's going to be a female. So this is a female patient that hasn't been born yet. Her 40-year-old mommy, probably happy to have a new daughter. However, this daughter isn't going to be typical. It says which chromosome set has an extra added, and we found out that it's chromosome 21. So in your notebook, make sure you answer all questions possible. So we've summarized patient history, done. We know that it's a female, has XX, and we know that it has an extra copy of chromosome 21. And it says, what diagnosis would you give the patient? What disease? And if you don't recall, or if I haven't said it yet, right here, there's a table of information. It says Down syndrome is an extra copy of chromosome 21. So we would state that they have trisomy 21 or Down syndrome. And that would be the answer to number 2. And you'd be finished with this slide. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up our notes number 4 for Sex It Happens at 11 minutes. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And stay tuned. We have Sex It Happens number 5 coming your way right after this. Alright, have a good night.